In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 3 bad habits of beginner wildlife photographers, and we're going to discuss how you can break these bad habits. And to be fair, these are habits that I see not just in beginners. I see advanced wildlife photographers making these mistakes, and I make these mistakes myself from time to time, but I find that these habits are most prevalent when you're just getting started in wildlife photography and you don't really realize why it's important to break these habits. And I'm going to give you a few examples of times that I've, had these habits and made some pretty bad mistakes and missed shots because of it. So getting right into it, the first bad habit is being underprepared for a shoot. This really comes in 2 forms. The first form would be being underprepared in terms of camera gear, and the other would be being underprepared for the outdoors. So talking about camera gear first, the main things that I see here is batteries that aren't fully charged and memory cards that have not been emptied. You go out on a shoot wildlife, you get to a scene, and you've got this awesome lighting on a beautiful animal right in front of you. You get your camera out, raise it up and get ready to shoot, and your battery's dead or your memory card's full. So the mistake here is that you didn't prepare for the shoot. You didn't empty your card beforehand onto your computer or onto your hard drive. You didn't charge your batteries beforehand so that you would get there and be able to shoot for as long as you wanted to without your camera dying. And this is really a huge problem because it can lead to you missing shots despite there being a great scene in front of you simply because you didn't prepare your camera gear beforehand. And this is a mistake that has been made by probably every wildlife photographer out there, and is a habit that I think everyone needs to focus on breaking. And one example of a time that I've done this would be this summer when I was shooting out in Grand Teton National Park. The most amazing thing that I saw the entire summer was grizzly bear 399 and her 4 cubs eating an elk calf. And when I actually got to that scene, I jump out with my camera and I begin to shoot and notice that my battery light is blinking and my camera is almost dead. Now, thankfully, at this point, I was right beside my car and I had another battery inside. So I was able to jump inside, switch out batteries really quickly, and get back to shooting. No big problem. But if I had walked down, 100 yards to where I ended up shooting most of the footage and photos from, or if I hadn't had another battery in the car and been prepared in that way, I would have been out of luck. And I would have missed the shots of a lifetime simply because my gear was underprepared for the shoot. So this is a really bad habit that I think everyone needs to focus on breaking if it's a habit that you have. And, most of you have probably made this mistake before, whether you're a beginner or an advanced photographer. It's very easy to do, but it can be very detrimental in the end to your photography. And then the second part of this bad habit is being underprepared for the outdoors. So this basically is whenever you go out on a shoot, and even if you have fully charged batteries and emptied off memory cards and your gear is all ready to go out and shoot, you don't have a cold weather jacket and you're shooting in 30-degree weather, or you're going out into the sun for 12 hours in a day and you don't have sunscreen. These are those little things that you might not think about because you're so focused on making sure that your camera gear is prepared that actually have a huge impact on whether you're able to collect images or not. Because when you get out into the field and you're freezing cold and shivering and pouring down snow, you're not going to be able to sit out there and shoot for very long. Or if you go out into the swamp and you're just getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, you may only last 1 hour, when if you had bug spray, you would have lasted for 6 hours out there. And so you're missing out on tons of shots simply by not being prepared for the outdoors. So really there are 2 parts to that bad habit, and both of them are vitally important to fix if you're going to be shooting wildlife. Now let me interject here to let you all know that I'm going to be giving away a free trip to Yellowstone National Park to photograph wildlife in the fall of 2022. I'm going to be announcing some more details on this soon, but all you have to do to be able to enter is to hit that subscribe button down below. You all know what to do. Now, the second bad habit is the one that is, in my opinion, the most difficult to break, and it's a habit that I think basically every wildlife photographer that I know has developed, and this is chimping. And basically what this is whenever you're out on a shoot and you're getting some great images and suddenly the action might start to slow down some, and maybe the animal puts its head down and begins to eat again, and you decide to take your eye away from the viewfinder and hold the camera down and review your images. You're scrolling through the images that you just got. And then when you do that and you have your camera down here looking at the images, scrolling through them, and you don't have your eye to the viewfinder pointed at the animal and ready to shoot, something else happens out in the field and you end up missing something simply because you were chimping and looking at your images instead of shooting and having your camera up and ready to shoot. Again, this is the habit that I think is the most difficult to break, because when you get a shot that you think is phenomenal, or you think that maybe you were able to get that shot that you think is phenomenal, and you want to look back at that shot, it's so difficult to stop yourself from doing that and say, okay, maybe I got it, maybe I didn't, but what I need to focus on right now is continuing to shoot this animal and being prepared for the next awesome opportunity to happen. Because a lot of times these opportunities are very fleeting moments, when a bird takes off or a bear raises its head, and you only have a few seconds to capture it. So if you're not sitting there prepared and you're instead chimping, you're going to miss the action. And just like with the previous bad habit, this is one that I have as well and that I'm working on trying to fix. One example of this would be this summer when I was shooting a great gray owl and I was getting some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. I ended up setting up the settings on my camera to prepare for the owl to take off, and hopefully I could get some takeoff and in-flight shots. And I took my eye away from the viewfinder and decided to review those shots while I was waiting on the owl to take off. And I missed the takeoff. Even though my settings were perfect for the takeoff, if I had just not pixel peeped and instead held the camera up to my eye and continued to shoot and continued to, wait on that takeoff, I would have gotten the photos. And one of the things that I heard on a podcast recently that was kind of addressing this, and it was said by Charles Glatzer, very successful wildlife photographer if you don't know who he is. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically what he said was either you got the shot or you didn't. You can't go back in time and you can't change it now. You got it or you didn't. So there's no point in checking to see if you got it. The only thing that you're doing by checking is making it less likely that you get the shot the next time that something happens. And I think that explains this bad habit perfectly because it's really true. You cannot change whether you got the shot or not. So there's no point in chimping. It does nothing for you. The best thing that you can do is continue to shoot and make sure that you get the shot the next time. So that is the second bad habit. And then the third and final one is not reading the scene. All the time I will be at, bear jams or some other form of wildlife jam, and I will see people jump out of the car with their cameras, not look at the scene at all, not look at the lighting, not look at the angle that they're shooting from, not look at background. They will just jump out of the car, immediately throw the camera up and start firing away. And this is a really big mistake because what you're doing by doing that is most of the time creating mediocre wildlife images. You haven't looked at the potential in the scene for what will help you to create the best wildlife image. And this is one that, is again difficult to break just like the others, and that's why it is a bad habit, because you want to just be able to jump out and immediately start shooting this animal when you see it. But it's much more important to remain patient. And when you get to a scene where, you think there's potential for good wildlife images, stop for a second and read it. Look at the lighting angle. Look at where you could maneuver yourself or position yourself to where the lighting is hitting the animal from the best angle. Look at the background. Maybe you don't want that distracting branch in the background behind the bear. So you want to move over to the side a little bit to where that branch is out of the frame and it's just a clean background of grass behind the bear. Or maybe you want to make sure that you get a nice blue sky behind the bear. So instead of shooting from up on this hill, you're going to go down to the bottom of the hill and shoot up at the bear to make sure that nice bright blue sky is behind it, silhouetting the animal. Stuff like that is very important to look at and try to read and notice prior to shooting your shots to ensure that you're going to the area and shooting from the area that is going to get you the best shots. So this is one that is probably the most common in beginners of these three. The other two habits, I see everyone making from beginners all the way up to advanced wildlife photographers, but not reading the scene is something that a lot of beginners do. And really one of the biggest ways that I think that you can improve your images is by breaking this habit and by instead of just jumping out and starting to shoot, you get out, you read the scene, you decide, okay, this is the position that will get me the best photos. You get into that position and then you start shooting. And I would almost guarantee that every time that you do that, you're going to come away with better shots from that shoot than you would if you just got out and started firing away. So that is the third and final bad habit, and I truly believe that if you can break these three bad habits, if you come into the scene both prepared with your camera gear and for the elements, if you can stop chimping, and if you can come into a scene and instead of just immediately shooting, read the scene and find out where you're going to get the best shots, you're going to come away with not only more shots, but with better shots, with more powerful images that are going to have more of an impact on the viewer, which is obviously what every wildlife photographer wants out of their images. So with that, guys, I do want to remind you to subscribe for that Yellowstone trip giveaway. More details on that are coming soon. Also, if you could drop a comment down below, let me know what you all thought, and like this video as well. That would be very helpful for the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video and that you found this video helpful, and maybe you can break these bad habits now that they've been brought to your attention. And lastly, if you'd like to check out more of my work, you can check out my Facebook and my Instagram, both of which will be linked down below in the description. And with that, guys, I think that's all for this video. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.